Humans create concepts for human understanding, and they create fairy tales to appease human emotions. They have created a make-believe story of a hell, where mountains are flowing with lava, lakes are on fire, and lands of brimstone exist. This is a human concept, to appease human desires, for their enemies to be punished. In reality, hell is a place of darkness. Hell is where species fight one another, destroy each other's cities, fight between family and friends, where the species lives in conflict. It is a place where the species experiences the opposite of the world of light. They experience negatives such as jealousy, envy, anger, hatred, spite, sadness, sorrow, misery, frustration, physical ailments and perceived death. Hell is a valley of the shadows of death, where there is corruption, conflict, war, natural disasters and anger. Hell is a virtual prison of sorrows, it is a dungeon of deceit, where those who are imprisoned ignore the true evils within their environment, in hopes of short experiences with harmony. I ask you now, guess where you really are? Guess what type of a body you are really inhabiting now? When I tell you to walk into a medical room, and look at the poster on the wall of the human anatomy, and you see bloody veins, mucousy organs and a skeleton, what is your true design? When I ask you to consider, a baby being born comes out of a womb crying and covered in blood and placenta, does this sound like a cheerful cherub, or a screaming demon? Strangely enough, the sun is considered harmful to your human body, as you exist inside this world as a human being. However, the sun affects the human being in a positive manner emotionally. Strange conflict of nature this is. You have been told the sun is dangerous to the human eyes and looking at it will blind you. You have been told the sun is a raging inferno that melts anything that approaches the sun. You have been told the sun can emit dangerous flares that can upset the world you inhabit. Yet, I ask you to remember, that without the sun that exists millions of miles away, this species would be unable to experience color, imagery, sound or perception of life. And I ask you, if the sun is so blazing hot that it can melt any material object within the sun, then how is it possible for the sun to be a physical body? The sun is not a physical body like a physical planet. You have all been deceived by the sciences of human observation, in a human world that is designed to deceive you from the truth. The sun is the biblical tree of life, that gives life to many of the dark-arid worlds within the universe. This is truth. Inside the environment of this world, the primary colors are red, green and blue. When you mix these colors unequally, you get every color possible under the rainbow. However, when you mix the three primary colors equally, you get the color of the sun, white. The primary source of all color possibilities only comes into existence by the miracle of light. Have you ever stopped to wonder why human beings get depressed in seasons with less sun, and happier in seasons with more sun? Do you ever wonder why people fear darkness, and sometimes leave lights on inside the home? This alone is a symbol of what the sun truly represents: security and happiness. Now, you have heard stories about Americans landing on the moon in the late 1960s. I ask you to consider a few small realities. One is gravity, and the second is distance. What sandwiches you to the surface of this world is gravity. From below the surface you feel the pull, and in the highest regions of air, you feel another type of gravity that does not pull, but pushes you back down again. What lies in between these two forces of gravity is a field of no gravity. In this field there is no pulling or pushing, but this is the boundary of air where space exploring departments have been positioning satellites, telescopes and weaponry. Have you ever wondered why it is that the satellites used for broadcasting communications also follow the world you are inhabiting, as the world travels millions of miles revolving around the sun? This is because they remain inside a boundary of airs, within the world's atmosphere, and a very dark atmosphere at that. They are not out in outer space, but remain in inner space, otherwise they would not follow the world as it revolves around the sun. And television and other radio signals would cease to continue. Now, as far as traveling to an environment the human race refers to as a moon, here is the obvious. Even today, a highly advanced plane, like a Boeing 747, today in 2011, uses approximately 1 gallon of fuel, about 4 liters, every second of flight. Over the course of a 10 to 14 hour flight, this might burn 36,000 to 50,000 gallons, 150,000 liters, of fuel to travel up to 9,000 nautical miles. On March 19, 2011, the rise of a full moon called a supermoon, at its closest point to the Earth in 2011, was a distance of 221,565 miles or 356,575 kilometers away from this world, or exactly 192,535 nautical miles away. Even today, almost 40 years later, the most advanced shuttle would require refueling at 22 interstellar gas stations along the way to the moon. This is today, not 40 years ago, with less sophisticated technology. Then they would have to have again refueled at the same 22 interstellar gas stations to return to this world. Now, unless they propelled Wall-E Coyote and an Acme rocket jet to 22 different locations along the way, also carrying 100,000 gallons of fuel for each of the 22 independent space trips, the moon landing was not possible. If I am correct, Wall-E Coyote did not set up 22 gas stations in space for refueling along the way. Enough said.